Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Just real fast, if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, I would greatly appreciate it if you went down to the bottom of my channel and hit me with a review. Good, bad, the ugly. I like 5 stars, but no sweat. Today, the next 10 minutes of your life are inspired by a compliment and a run. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to the engine. I try to see the best in my students. I really do. I like my students. I think they're awesome. And I think they're really young. That's the bottom line. I mean, you are dealing with partially formed human beings. Now, I do not mean to be putting them down and saying that they're not valuable. I'm not saying that they're not insightful, that they're intelligent. They're all of these things. And I know this more than most people because I spend the vast majority of my days hanging out with them. But they're also young. They have growing to do. And parents see a lot of negatives in students. Okay, so it's not uncommon for me to get a call from a parent and just hear them say, all right, well, look, my kid's all right, but he's got these problems or she's got this issue or whatever. And it's the parent's job to do this because the worst phone call is from the parent who just gets on the phone and starts telling me about all of the ways the kid is awesome. That drives me insane. It's kind of like, look, man, you're talking about a 16-year-old. I'm sure the 16-year-old is great. Like, but what has a 16-year-old done recently that you're just like, that is just mind-blowing? I mean, you could be doing really well for a 16-year-old. You could have a good GPA. You could probably volunteer, but, like, you haven't saved anyone. You know, it's like very rarely do you talk about, like, I made a lifeguarding rescue. I rescued someone. It's kind of like it doesn't really work that way. So the students are good, and if a parent's doing their job, then they'll likely say, hey, look, good kid, good base, kind of got these issues we're working with, no big deal. It's always my job to believe in the best potential of the kids. It is. It has to be. Because if I don't believe that a student can get a math question or understand a grammar concept, I will give up teaching them. Or I'll do it, but I'll just kind of like, well, this is how you do it. Remember, I've told you. No. I have to believe in the student's capacity. I have to, in my heart, know that this kid can get it. I've mentioned it before. I worked with the student Will. I love Will. He's going to college right now. I had to teach him system of equations probably 8 or 9 times at different classes. I'd teach him, he'd get it. I'd give him a drill, he'd get it. He'd go home, he'd forget it. Screwed up on the next homework. I kept teaching Will. I never gave up on him because I had to believe in Will's potential to get this question, to get this concept. And because of that, I'm never shy talking about potential with people. I'm like, you know, parents in particular, but sometimes students like, look, you got the potential. It's definitely there. You're just being lazy, right? And that's a very powerful thing because it puts the onus of the result on the student, right? What I'm trying to effectively do is convince them that they absolutely can have a great score. They absolutely can go to the best college they want, right? Their first choice. What's holding them back is them. And that's an important thing to instill because if people think, 1, that they can't get in, they won't try. And 2, if they think they can get in, but it's just there are all these other things holding them, like parents holding me back, friends holding me back. What if they won't try again? So you gotta really drive it home that that's ownership and it's on them and they have the potential. You have the potential to do this. And I'm ashamed to say I think I may have screwed this up. So a run that I do is it's a hill run. It's in the direct sun. There's very little shade on this entire run. And through the foothills, Mount Diablo, it's a wonderful run. The first 3 miles, though, are just an ass kicker. It's like incline the whole way. And then the last 4 miles, it's about 7-mile run. The last 4 miles are gradually downhill, which is awesome. But the first 2.5, 3 miles, those are brutal. And again, you're in the direct sun, you're running on dirt trails, and it's just hurting. And I try to get up and go running early before it gets hot. Because I know when it's hot, I'm just going to be crushed out there. I have pretty dark skin when I get some sun. Haven't been getting much sun lately, but I can get dark skin. I don't mind the heat that much, but it's still brutal. So sometimes I'll tell myself in the morning, I'm like, you could potentially just do it later, right? Like, you have the ability to do it later. You got other stuff going on right now. Just do it later. And what happens in that really small, brief moment is I exchange actually doing it and what that costs and the benefits, right? The benefits I get for the benefits of having the potential to do it later, but not actually doing it. And the interesting thing is the benefits of having the potential, not zero. That's actually worth something. When you meet somebody who has a lot of potential to do things, they feel good about themselves. They feel capable. They feel like awesome, right? They're like, well, I could do it. I just choose not to. I got the potential. And that's what happens to me sometimes with my run. It's almost like I see later in the day that I could do it, and that's valuable to me, so I just brush it off. And a lot of the times if I don't get it done, other things come up. What are the odds that it's actually going to happen later in the day? If you're busy now at 7 a.m., you're going to be really busy at 2 p.m. I got kids, I got a wife, I got students, I got a lot going on. And because of this, I've started realizing that every time I tell students they have potential, I'm giving them a currency they didn't earn. I'm giving them something to feel good about without them putting actual effort in. It's the oddest thing that I've come to realize. We talk about potential all the time. You can do it. No, you can't. Maybe you can. I have no idea. But what have you done? And students will push back sometimes. They're like, well, I could get all of this homework done if I want to. I could do extra sections. Who knows if that's true? We don't know if we're making it home tonight. You don't have potential. What you have is what you have done already. And right now. That's all you have. You don't have a promise or an ability of tomorrow. You don't have this random concept of this better self floating around somewhere that represents yourself in the future if you only just elect to grab it. You don't have any of that. You have right now, and you have what you did yesterday and the day before and the day before. But we don't think of it that way. When we think of potential, when we think of our best selves, and I see this with students, we envision this great, awesome, perfect version of ourselves floating around in the sky, and we feel great about it. And we actually think, I could have that if I wanted to. I don't want to, but I could. And the fact that you could makes you feel good and actually reduces your chances of getting it. I was telling a student just yesterday, it's like having a $10 million check in your pocket, or at the very least, convincing yourself you do. You know you don't. But like, you convince yourself and other people. I could cash this $10 million check. I could be balling out of my minds. I could be rich. I just choose not to. I'm about this, not $10 million deep life. But convincing yourself that you have that check, other people talking to you about how awesome it would be if you cashed that check, and how you absolutely could cash it. You could go to the bank. You could be awesome. We could be doing it right. We could be on a boat. I'm on a boat. We could be doing anything. It would be great. We all start to buy into this life. that's all nonsense. Because it's not what we are. It's an imaginary version of ourselves that represents our potential later on. And just having the imaginary check in your pocket, knowing that you could cash that. I could take a job. I could take a better job. I could take the best job. But like I could. I just don't really, it's not my thing. That's what potential is. That's what convincing somebody that they could do something awesome and getting them to think about all the awesomeness that they have inside themselves. That's giving them this false sense of accomplishment and success and ability and life without them actually having to work for it. I'm never talking to my students about potential again. If they ask if they can get a good score, I'll say, yeah, maybe. We'll find out. What'd you do yesterday to get that good score? What'd you do today to get that good score? What are you going to do tomorrow? You don't have the potential for a good score. You have those decisions. And if you're not making the decisions that you know will lead you to a good score, you don't have squat. I'm Matt Todd, and this is Union That Drives Me. Go out and crush it.